I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who would say those words out loud, let alone live them. But here I am. I'm not proud of what happened. I'm not even sure I fully understand how it began. All I know is that it didn't start with a plan. There was no intention, no seduction, no desire to break rules or hurt anyone. But something slipped. Something inside me cracked. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the loneliness. Or maybe it was just him. His name is Tyler. He's 25. He's my ex-husband's son from a previous marriage. I never raised him. He didn't grow up with me. We were never family in the real sense of the word. But still, I was his stepmother. For years. And I suppose, in some twisted way, that still matters. After the divorce, I moved to the mountains, to that little retreat cabin Tom and I used to visit when things were better. I wanted space. I wanted air. But Tyler showed up one afternoon, saying he needed time to think. I welcomed him. Stupid, right? I thought I was helping him. But I didn't expect his eyes to look through me the way they did. I didn't expect my heart to beat faster every time he walked into a room. And I definitely didn't expect what happened next. But I'm not here to defend myself. I'm just here to tell you what happened. And let you decide. After Tom and I divorced, I thought I'd feel free. But freedom has a funny way of turning into emptiness when no one's there to share it with. The cabin was supposed to be my escape, a peaceful place tucked deep in the woods. Where the noise of my past couldn't follow me. I imagined silence would be healing. Instead, it became deafening. Some nights I'd sit by the fireplace, wine in hand, staring at the same spot on the floor for hours. Wondering where I went wrong. Wondering why I still felt like I was waiting for someone to come home, even when there was no one left to come. Tom didn't cheat on me. He didn't yell. He didn't even really leave. He just slowly stopped seeing me, like I'd faded into the wallpaper of his life. And eventually, I did what any woman with a little pride left might do. I left before I became invisible. I brought only what mattered. A few clothes, my mother's ring, and the memories I couldn't seem to shake, no matter how far I drove. The days were long and quiet. The nights, colder than I expected. Even in spring, the trees outside whispered in the wind. And sometimes I imagined they were talking about me. About the woman who built a life on loyalty, and ended up alone anyway. I told myself I was healing. But deep down, I knew the truth. I wasn't healing. I was hiding. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Tyler showed up. I hadn't seen him in almost 2 years, since Tom's birthday dinner. Actually, he'd grown into himself since then, taller, broader, more assured. There was a calmness in the way he carried himself. A quiet confidence that reminded me so much of the Tom I first fell in love with. Before life wore us both down. He said he was passing through. Needed a place to think. I didn't ask questions. I just opened the door. I told myself it was innocent. He was Tom's son. After all, he had every right to be there. But the moment he stepped inside, I felt something shift in the air. It wasn't dramatic, not loud or obvious. It was something subtler. An energy, a tension I couldn't explain. The first night, we barely spoke. I made dinner. He helped clear the plates. We watched the fire crackle in silence. But when I got up to go to bed, I felt his eyes on me. Not in a disrespectful way. Not even lustful. Just searching. Like he was trying to read something behind my expression. The days passed quietly. Tyler slept in the guest room. Spent his mornings walking the trails behind the cabin. Afternoons helping me chop wood or fix the back steps. He was kind, gentle, easy to be around. Too easy. I started looking forward to the sound of his footsteps. The way he said, "Good morning," with that little half smile. The way he noticed things, my chipped nail polish, my favorite mug, the way my shoulders tensed when I was deep in thought. I should have known then. This wasn't going to be simple. And I wasn't nearly as alone as I'd thought I was. It happened on the 5th night. A storm had rolled in fast, thunder cracking above the treetops. Wind lashing against the windows. The power flickered, then cut out completely. I lit candles in the kitchen and tried to keep calm. But truthfully, the silence unsettled me more than the storm. Tyler offered to make tea. I watched as he moved confidently through the darkened kitchen, lighting the gas stove like he'd done it 1,000 times. He looked so at ease, like he belonged there. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, trying to steady the strange flutter in my chest. He glanced up. Our eyes met for a beat too long. Then he smiled. "Storms always made me feel safe," he said. I laughed softly, ironic. We sat at the table in the candlelight, each holding a warm mug, the room glowing with soft orange hues. It should have been awkward. It wasn't. He asked about my divorce, not in a nosy way. Just gently. I found myself telling him things I hadn't even told my therapist. How I'd stopped recognizing myself. How it hurt more to be ignored than yelled at. He listened, really listened. And when I got quiet, blinking too hard, he didn't try to fill the silence. Instead, he reached across the table and placed his hand lightly over mine. That one touch. It sent a wave through me so sharp I almost pulled away. But I didn't. I looked at our hands. His thumb moved, just a little, like he was testing something. And something in me responded. I stood up abruptly, muttering something about checking the candles. But I felt his eyes on me as I left the room. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel cold. I didn't sleep that night. I tossed, turned, stared at the ceiling, replaying the moment his hand touched mine. It wasn't just warmth, it was intention. Not loud, not crude, just real. And I hadn't pulled away. I couldn't decide what scared me more, that he touched me, or that I let him. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hallway. Light, careful. I froze. My bedroom door was slightly ajar. And through the crack, I saw him. Tyler. He stood there for a moment, like he wasn't sure whether to knock or turn back. Then his voice, low, hesitant, cut through the silence. "Are you awake?" I swallowed hard. "Yeah." He stepped inside, slowly, like he was afraid he might break something just by being too loud. "I couldn't sleep," he said, his eyes flickering between me and the floor. "The storm, everything." I nodded, not trusting my voice. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. He sat at the edge of the bed, careful to leave space between us. I didn't want to be alone. Neither did I, but I couldn't say that. We sat in silence. The wind howled outside. The candle on my nightstand flickered weakly. Then, his hand brushed mine again. Deliberate this time, slower. I should have pulled away. But I didn't. He turned toward me, his eyes full of something unspoken, want, fear, maybe both. I felt it rising inside me too. Something reckless, something dangerous. When he leaned in, I didn't stop him. And when his lips met mine, soft and trembling, I didn't pull away. We crossed a line that night. Not loudly, not violently, but completely. And in the silence afterward, I knew we'd never come back from it. The next morning, the cabin felt different. Lighter in some ways, heavier in others. Tyler was already up, making coffee like nothing had happened. He smiled when he saw me, easy and warm, like we hadn't just torn down a wall we could never rebuild. I wanted to pretend too. I wanted to match his calm, his casualness, but my insides were anything but quiet. I could still feel him. His hands, his breath, the way he whispered my name like it meant something more than just a name. We didn't speak about it, not in words, but everything in the air between us had changed. The way he stood closer now, the way I caught myself watching his mouth when he talked, the way our silences stretched, but never felt empty. I told myself it was just a mistake, a one-time collapse of control, but the lie didn't hold for long. That evening, after dinner, I found him outside, chopping firewood in the cool dusk. Sweat clung to his shirt. His hair messy, cheeks flushed from the cold. He looked young, strong, alive. And something inside me pulled again. He turned, our eyes locked. Neither of us moved, we didn't have to. The next thing I knew, we were back inside, barely getting the door closed before our hands found each other again. Clothes dropped to the floor like leaves in the wind. There was no hesitation this time. No fear, just hunger, like we had waited too long and the dam had finally broken. When it was over, we lay tangled in silence. His fingers traced idle lines on my bare shoulder, and I closed my eyes, trying to catch my breath. But I couldn't stop thinking, this wasn't just desire anymore. Something deeper was blooming, twisted, illicit. But real. And that scared me more than anything else. The guilt didn't come all at once. It crept in slowly, like smoke under a closed door. The kind you don't notice until you can't breathe. I started waking up before Tyler, slipping out of bed to stare at myself in the bathroom mirror. My reflection looked the same, but I didn't feel like me anymore. I began questioning everything. The way he touched me, was it love? Or was I just something forbidden? The way I responded, was it loneliness? Or had I truly crossed a moral line I couldn't defend? But the worst part wasn't what I felt. It was the feeling that someone else knew. It started with little things. A strange noise behind the cabin. A motion light flickering on in the middle of the night. Once, I came into the living room and found the curtains slightly drawn, even though I was sure I'd closed them the night before. I told myself it was paranoia. My nerves, my guilt playing tricks. But one morning, while cleaning the bookshelf, I found something hidden behind the old photo albums, something that didn't belong. A small black device. Square, cold, a camera. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. I picked it up like it might bite me. Who put it there? It wasn't dusty, it hadn't been there long. That's when my stomach dropped. Tyler hadn't arrived at the cabin by accident. He'd known exactly where to go, and so would his father. Tom. My ex-husband. Suddenly, the walls of the cabin didn't feel safe anymore. They felt watched. And the one person I thought I was beginning to trust, Tyler, was now a question mark one didn't know how to answer. What if everything I'd felt had been staged? What if I'd been played from the start? I didn't confront him right away. I couldn't. I needed time to breathe, to wrap my mind around the possibility that everything between us might have been a lie. But once you see the crack, you can't stop watching it spread. Tyler changed too, or maybe I just started seeing him differently. He was still sweet, still attentive, but now, every smile felt rehearsed, every touch carried weight. I started replaying things he'd said, offhand comments about Tom, about the cabin, about how he knew I'd be here. Had he followed me? Or worse, had Tom sent him? The truth came out 2 days later. I asked him, quietly, while we sat by the fire like nothing was wrong. Just us and the shadows. Why did you really come here, Tyler? He hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. He looked down at his hands, then said, Dad asked me to check on you. He didn't trust you. He thought, maybe you'd try to take the cabin in the divorce. I felt the air leave my lungs. So this, was part of that? His eyes widened. No, God, no, that wasn't supposed to happen. I was just supposed to stay a few nights. Watch, report back, but I didn't mean for this to. His voice broke off. I stood up, shaking. You made me believe you cared. I do, he said, rising too. I didn't expect to feel anything. But I did, I still do. But I couldn't hear it. Because in that moment, it didn't matter what he claimed to feel. What mattered was that I had fallen into the arms of someone who had been sent to spy on me. And I had handed him my heart without ever checking his hands for knife. Tyler left the next morning. No goodbye, no note, just silence and the faint sound of tires crunching over gravel as he drove away. I sat at the edge of the bed. The same bed where we'd once tangled ourselves into something I mistook for comfort. It felt cold now, sterile, like nothing real had ever happened there. The camera was still in the drawer. I hadn't touched it since the day I found it. But I knew what it meant. And I knew Tom would get what he wanted: proof, leverage, punishment. I stayed in the cabin another week. Though I don't remember most of it. I moved through the days like a shadow. Ate when I had to. Slept when I couldn't cry anymore. And when I looked in the mirror, I didn't see a woman, I saw a warning. Eventually, I packed a bag and left. I couldn't stay there, not where every corner whispered his name. Not where every echo reminded me how foolish I'd been to believe that what we had was untouched by the outside world. I rented a small room in town. Cheap, quiet, forgettable. That's what I wanted to be, forgettable. But forgetting never came. I started therapy. It was awkward at first. I didn't know how to explain what I'd done, how I'd crossed a line I didn't even realize I'd been standing on. But eventually, the words came, slowly, broken, honest. I admitted I wasn't angry at Tyler. I was angry at myself, for craving something that looked like love in a time when I was drowning in loneliness. The therapist asked me if I regretted it. I said no. And then immediately said yes. Because the truth is, I still don't know the answer. Maybe I never will. Some mistakes leave bruises. Others leave shadows that never stop following you. It's been 6 months since Tyler left. I haven't seen him, haven't heard a word. Not even a text. Tom filed the papers like I knew he would. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The silence between us said it all. He didn't just leave me. He erased me. The cabin's gone now, sold to a stranger. A place that once held my second chance, now just coordinates on a map I'll never visit again. I still remember how Tyler looked that last morning, torn. Maybe that's just what I needed to believe. I've stopped pretending I know what love looks like. Because sometimes, love feels like being seen. And sometimes, it feels like being used. I've spent weeks in therapy trying to untangle it. What was real? What was need? What was mine? And what was never meant to be? Would I do it again? Most days, I say no. But some nights, quiet, long, empty, I still feel the echo of his voice in that cabin. And my heart betrays me with a whisper, yes. Because the truth is, when someone finally reaches for you, after years of feeling invisible, you don't always ask if it's wrong. You just hold on. Even if it burns. Now I've told you everything. So I'll ask you, truthfully, painfully. If you were starving for affection, would you have walked away? Or would you have let it happen, like I did? Tell me. I'm listening.